Welcome to Abiding Life Studios. Be sure to check out our unique self-test, available in our app on iOS and Android, and on our website at abidinglife.com. Take the test today and find out how God uniquely made you. Share your results with anyone, along with the capability of purchasing and gifting tests. And remember to check out our YouTube channel at Abiding Life Ministries International to watch Michael Wells training videos, including basic seminar, expanded seminar, counselor lecture training, podcasts, and more.
Hello, welcome to Abiding Life Studios. I'm Noah Wells. I have with me Shay Wells.
Hello.
Hello. And Steve Reinhard.
Hi, pleasure to be with you guys again today.
Same. Good to see you. We will get right into it.
Mm-hmm.
We want to talk about, is God disappointed in us?
Oof. That's a tough topic.
Yes.
Because I think we've all felt that from time and time again. I know I have.
Yes, I agree.
Steve, do you think a lot of people have thought that before?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and probably instead of framing it as a question, most of us have that thought that God is disappointed with me or in me, or with what I'm doing or thinking or saying, but the bottom line is, I think probably many of us have that idea that God's disappointed when he thinks about Steve or somebody,
Yeah.
So, but so what would you tell somebody is like if they came up to you and said, no, I've got this, I've just have this thought rolling around my mind is like, God's disappointed with me all the time.
Yeah, I guess my first question would be is where's that coming from? Is it from like the way you took reading the Bible? Was it from what other people have said that God is? I mean, that would probably be my first question is where is this actually coming from? I know for myself, I'm sure I've felt it before, that God was disappointed in me, but I would like to think, no, not like to think. I think that all those disappointments are either my own self, because I've held myself up on a higher pedestal, and I shouldn't be like this. I failed. I shouldn't have failed. I've already failed before, and I shouldn't have done that. Or something that someone else has said to me about me being a human. Because usually that's what people say when they don't like you about something. It's usually just the humanness of us. So I think,
or even like that book I mentioned last week, you could read that book and come away and go, oh my gosh, God is really disappointed in me.
Yeah.
I don't talk right. I don't go to church. I don't read my Bible enough. When I do read it, I don't show the right interest. I don't sing with enthusiasm. If that guy's right, then I'm surely a huge disappointment to God.
Yeah. And I'm the type of person that doesn't like rules. So if I knew that God was always disappointed in me, then I would just say, well, I'm done. I'm not going to do any more, I don't know, good or whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to give up and just do whatever I want to do. And yes, I have done that before in my life as well. Have you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Many times. When you first brought this question up, Steve, my first thought was, well, if you think that God is disappointed in you, or if you're having those feelings, or you're like, man, God is just, whether you're questioning it or statementing it, my first thought is then your focus is on your behavior. And if your focus is on your behavior, your focus isn't on God. Because if I were to focus on my behavior, everybody should be disappointed in me. Noah should be disappointed in me as a wife. My girls should be disappointed in me as a mom. My parents probably are disappointed in me for many things. But if you're looking at my behavior, of course I would think God is disappointed in me. And just like you referenced the book that you talked about last week, a lot of, and not to discredit that author, because that is where God has him on his journey. But But if I focused on checking all of the boxes of Christianity that people within church or within the Christian world, their expectations of me, of course I'm a disappointment, because I am a human. I fall short. I don't do everything. I don't do the do's. And when I do, I don't do them well. And so if you were to look at my behavior, I'm a complete disappointment, 100%. So I think the times in my life that I have felt like I'm a disappointment to God, I was focusing on what I was doing and not who I was seeking. So
I like that.
thanks.
Oh, my.
So I just think disappointment is solely attached to behavior. And I think it's the same thing in not just our Christian walk, but in life with our kids, right? When are you disappointed in your kids? When their behavior's not where you expect it to be. And my expectations as a mom are different than other moms. Noah's expectations as a dad are different than other dads, because our expectations are based solely on our lives, on the way that we were raised, on the things that we feel are right or wrong. And then we have those expectations based on our humanness. And then we become disappointed in other people when they don't live up to our expectations and standards that were just a product of our own lives. So it's kind of silly, really, if you think about it. If you're disappointed in somebody, it's kind of silly. There was something I heard when I went to India when I was 17. And one of the things our leader said to us that has stuck with me my whole life since 17 is, if you have expectations, you're always going to be disappointed. The only thing expectations do is lead to disappointment, because our expectations are often so high, nobody can live up to them. And I even know that I've had expectations of God, and just to flip the script, I've been disappointed in God because I had boxes that I wanted him to fill. I wanted him to fill these needs. I wanted him to show up a certain way, or for him to be like my magical genie in a lamp, and I rub the lamp and God makes my life perfect. Well, he didn't. He let me down in my own expectations. Then I'm disappointed. And it really, to me, comes down to behavior and expectations, and disappointment's the byproduct. That's my very long tangent.
No,
I
that's good.
guess.
Yeah, I like that too. So I'm just thinking out loud after what you said. So that, like, you had expectations of God, and he didn't become your genie in a bottle, so that you would get your own way. And so, and as you were speaking, Shay, kind of like dawned on me, is like having these expectations, like you said, are different for all of us. They're based on our lives. But the expectation is always, like, if I'm looking at you, then my expectation is you'd basically do what I want, and you do what I do it my way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's always the expectation, right? So it's never like, if I'm disappointed, is basically I'm disappointed I didn't get my way.
Yeah.
Right. Or I might be disappointed in myself, and I might have, basically, I didn't get my own way with myself. I didn't do what I wanted. I didn't do what I thought I wanted to do, so I might be disappointed in myself. And so I didn't get my own way. Is the bottom line, is I didn't get my own way. And so if we're talking about God that way, it kind of dawned on me as you were sharing that, what we're saying is, like, God's kind of petty. Like, he's demanding that he gets his own way.
Yeah.
If I think that God's always disappointed in me and everybody else on earth, then he's kind of like a petty God who's like has to get his own way, or he's going to feel disappointed. You know,
Yeah,
like a
he's
little,
going
like
two-
little kids,
Yeah.
right? Like a little kid who's like, has to have their special orange juice before they'll
Yeah.
do anything. And then he's disappointed if he doesn't get it. You know, if you
Yeah.
make him drink his milk, he's going to be disappointed. It's like, wow, that's really kind of what we're saying about God when we say, well, he's disappointed in me all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and really,
I've got a really goofy idea of what God's like, don't I?
yeah, and I think to take it even one step further is the way I see it is God always gets his way. Because he already knows our steps before we take it. He
Mhm.
has everything, even though our lives may be goofier, we're doing weird things, or we're not making what we feel are the right decision. God already knew all of that. So in a sense, he always gets his own way.
Mhm.
He always gets his way. And so I don't think he's disappointed, because every decision I make, he's never shocked by it. He might roll his eyes like a parent would and be like, ah, Shay, really? That's what you're going to do? But it's not surprising to him, because he gave me choice, but he's always known the choices I'm going to make. So if God always gets his way because he's God, and he's not a selfish God, well, and he loves us. And all
Yeah,
that,
he's selfish because he wants
he's
us.
selfish
Yeah.
because he wants us, but he's not that 2-year-old fit in the corner. I don't think he's ever disappointed,
Mhm.
because I don't think anything is a shock. And I think that he doesn't, ooh, this is gonna be rough. I don't think he has expectations of us,
Mhm.
because he knows exactly who he created when he created me. He knew exactly who I would be and what I would do and the goofy things I would try or not try.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's ever disappointed in me. Not that I haven't ever questioned it or thought
Oh
it.
yeah.
Not that I haven't ever been like, oh, that might be disappointed. But when I really sit down and think about, like you were talking about, Steve, like the facts of it, I don't think he's ever disappointed in me.
Well, and the cool part too is he still pursues you,
Yes.
even with all the weird stuff we do. And I was just by listening to you two talk, I was thinking, you know, like, yes, I make mistakes probably daily, and I can I can feel that disappointment with myself, and then easily slap God's approval on that and say, oh, this, since I'm feeling this way, this must be God.
Mm.
When really I'm just doing it to myself.
Mhm.
Because I really do believe God just, any sin we do and all that, he wants us to live moment by moment.
Mhm.
He doesn't want us to go back. And so for me to go back, I'm always going back. Oh, I'm such an idiot. I can't believe I did that. I'm so disappointed in myself. God, I can see why you won't want to talk to me or have anything to do with me anymore. That's just me.
Mhm.
That has nothing to do with him. He wants me to move on and go, okay, what do you got next for me? What do we got? What's next? What's next? So I think just like Steve was saying, that we have like almost like a twisted
Mhm.
thought of what God really is,
Mhm.
because we think he is a lot like us. We all get disappointed in ourselves and each other, our children, everything. Well, God must be the same way.
Well, and aren't you glad he doesn't live up to all of our expectations? Because in that same sense, you expect him to be mad at you.
Yeah.
You expect him to make your whole life crumble because you're disappointed in yourself.
Mhm.
And so how great is it that he doesn't live up to our expectations?
Mhm.
Because there are many times that we expect him to like lightning bolt take us out because we're being stupid or making decisions that we feel are wrong, but there's always a lesson to be learned.
Yeah.
But so many times we think about expectations of like the good things, right? We want God to make our lives these beautiful, amazing things, but also there are times that we expect him to like take us out.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that he doesn't
Well,
live up to those expectations. I'd rather be disappointed than have him actually do what I want him to do.
yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I think we can all relate to this as well, or maybe it's just me, but like if I know I'm kind of been sinning or doing something weird or anything like that, and I trip and fall or get in a car accident or something happens, I'm like, yep, this is my punishment.
Mhm.
This is what I get for doing all that stuff. And see, yet again, that is just a twisted part where no, that's just life.
Yeah.
Life
is
happens.
fixed.
Yeah, life happens. And God is always teaching us stuff in that life.
Yeah.
And, for me to think, and I trust me, I have thought that before. Like, and even like, I'll have something bad happen and go, oh, 2 years ago, I did this. I'm finally getting the punishment I deserve.
Because your focus is on behavior.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that we often make God like ourselves, and
Mhm.
and probably the most important thing in our Christian lives is our idea of what God's like. And
Yeah.
as we start out, like Shay was saying earlier about the guy that wrote the book, as we start off our walk with the Lord, we have really goofy ideas of what God's like, So I was into really legalism and loved every minute of it, and in a sense walked with God in it. And now I look back and I go, wow, my idea of who God was really goofy. And
Mhm.
and then I look back at, a few years ago and I think, oh wow, my idea of who God was really goofy, you know. And so I think probably, the best thing we can do is to recognize that mm, we're going to have goofy ideas of who God is, and it's his job as a shepherd
Mhm.
to guide us and lead us and correct us and make himself known to us. Really is to really make himself known to us in this moment, like you guys said, in this moment, even if I'm feeling like I am disappointing him, I can always run to him
Mm.
Mhm.
and check it out, and see if he turns his back on me and walks away, which he's never ever done.
Yeah.
That I could even try and run away from him because I'm such a disappointment, and watch him catch me and get in front of me, or be like the father in the prodigal son story, who's just sees his son a long way off and runs toward him.
Mhm.
So I just like the idea that we can, when I'm feeling disappointed in myself, or I'm saying to myself, God's disappointed in me. Uh, it could just be like a flashing light on my dashboard, like a oil warning light,
Mm.
and say,
Mhm.
oh, when I'm feeling that way, that just means it's an opportunity to turn to the Lord and find out the truth, like
Yeah.
show us your shirt, Noah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm
He has
sure.
the Jesus
Yeah, I
and
got that
truth.
Jesus and truth.
So if I want to find the truth, that's who I turn to.
Yeah.
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 And so if I want to find, if I want to find out, is like I can always go to him and say, hey, like, are you disappointed in me?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because I do like what Shay said, that actually God doesn't have expectations of us.
Mhm.
That's just like totally foreign to God. If we were to go to him and say, like, you got expectations of us, he goes, like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. What?
You put that on yourself. He's
What's
like,
an
don't put that
what's
on.
an expectation?
Yeah.
Yeah. What
You
is that
know,
word? I don't know what that is.
Well, and he just wants us. And I mean, Noah talks about it all the time. Like he just wants you to talk to him moment by
Mhm.
moment. Like that's, you tell people that all the time, but then it's so hard to practice sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's like, if I think he has expectations of me, I'm going to hide because I don't want him to find me. I don't want him to see me. If he's disappointed in me, I'm going to go hide in the corner like every little 2-year-old does. And then I'm not giving him all of me. I'm not going to him. I'm not seeking him in those moments. And for me, when I'm feeling that expectation and that disappointment, then all of a sudden, for me, I struggle really bad with anxiety and depression. And so if I am feeling like I'm not living up to those behavioral expectations, the next thing I know, the fear has flooded my brain, the anxiety comes in,
Mm.
then I slip into depression because I'm probably just hiding or avoiding or not saying that anxiety and depression only comes in if you're not seeking God, because it's a thing that can be there all the time. I want to preface it with that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying if you seek God, everything goes away, because it doesn't. But a lot of times when I start hiding from God, all of a sudden the fear comes in and the confusion can come in. And it's like, maybe I just need to ask him what's going on, because God's a big God. He can take our questions.
Mhm.
Even our big questions are so small to him. And there's even been times I've questioned him.
Yeah, even
Like,
our
are you
doubts he
even,
can
are you
take.
even real? Because I've been like trying to find you. It's like hide and seek. I think you're disappointed in me. Like, are you hiding from me? You know, and you can ask him those things.
Yeah.
He can handle our big questions that are so small to him. So if you're feeling like he's disappointed in you, ask him.
Yeah. It's a good opportunity, like Steve said, to go to the source
Yeah. Go to
and
the
ask
source.
him, yeah, are you disappointed in me? What's going on here? Am I
Yeah.
just doing this to myself?
Or if you're disappointed in him,
Yeah, exactly. If you're
He-
disappointed in him, go
he
to
can
him.
take it. If you're like, hey, what is going on? My life is in shambles. I don't feel you. I don't feel like you're talking to me. I think we've all felt that, right?
Mhm.
He's silent. He doesn't care about my feelings or what I'm going through. My life is in shambles. Everything's falling apart. God is ignoring me. Ask him.
Yeah.
Tell him, man, I'm disappointed in you. Where are you? It's okay to say that.
Well, and what Steve was saying, like how God will, it's really God has to then what, prove himself to you. I forget how you said it, Steve. You
He's
probably didn't say,
pursuing
or
you.
pursuing you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've noticed even in my own life, and Shay would agree since we live together, but I can do some really weird things in my life, sin wise, or just weird things, and really be struggling with those. And you would think if God was disappointed in me, he would hammer me all the time, allow, me to get beaten up even more. But what I've noticed, and which is so crazy to me, is he actually blesses me in those times when I am definitely in sin. I am struggling with a sin and I'm stuck in it, and he still blesses me time and time again. And it's not like saying, because I have some weird health issues and usually in pain every night, or pain somewhere in some part of my body I have pain, but he doesn't take that away. Just like Shay was saying, it's like you can focus on him, but he doesn't take that away. Because I don't know how much I don't know how big of a concern that is. But yeah, he just wants me. He wants me to go to him. I go to him time and time again, and while I'm in sin, while I'm in pain, he's blessing me. And it's like, man,
and when
that is love.
When you think he's disappointed in you,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, that he is disappointed in me. He
Yeah.
hates me.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, he's still blessing you.
Yeah. And that's
maybe not in the way you wanted.
No, it usually isn't, but it does.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's actually amazing to have a God like that.
Yeah, his pursuit is deeper than our disappointment.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think you're right on target. For me, from my perspective, is that we've created a God that's like us, who
Yeah.
doesn't actually know what disappointment is.
Yeah.
Who's like Jesus said, he sends the rain on the just and the unjust, and the sunshine on the good and the evil, and that that he the idea that he would be disappointed in anything is like, for me, it was, as you guys were talking, I kept thinking about those thoughts, and I kept thinking, well, I'm going to have to admit here, some point along the line, when I think God's disappointed with me, I'm going to have to say those really hard words for us Christians, and especially me, to say, oh my gosh, I'm wrong.
Yeah. Right.
I'm wrong about God. And he's not like that. And that's a bitter pill to swallow, because this is a little bit different than what you're saying, Shay. Is like, I don't just think disappointment is always about behavior, because sometimes people look at themselves as a certain essence as like really bad, and they would say that he's not just disappointed in my behavior, he's disappointed in my being.
Yeah.
That I'm a disappointment. That I'm and so, or my beliefs, or I believe the wrong thing, so I'm a disappointment. And so then we have to try to work on our beliefs, and we have to work, like, try and totally transform ourselves.
Mhm.
And we call ourselves some pretty awful names sometimes
Yeah.
that uh, that I think God would be shocked to, he would never say them. And so just think it's a point where at some point us Christians, we have to like go, oh, I'm wrong. You know,
Mhm.
I've been believing something that's
Yeah.
totally off base about God, to think that he would be disappointed in me. And I always love, I probably have said this before, always love what my friend Rich said. He goes, you know, if God has a fireplace with a hearth on it, I know my picture's up on the hearth. And it's like, right on, Rich. That's so beautiful.
Yeah,
That
that's awesome.
and so I think that's, you know, for me, it's important for us to, when we say things, or when we hear our friends say certain things, like God's always disappointed in me all the time, to be able to just hit the pause button and say, well, let's look at the truth.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's look at him and see, and not just accept those things that we hear in the world around us, and from our Christian friends,
Yeah.
or ourselves, or if we have those thoughts pop into our own mind, let's
Mhm.
challenge those things and look at the truth, which is Jesus.
Yeah, so what do you guys think we beat ourselves up when we do something wrong? Do you think it's we're trying to show God that, we care that much that we're going to beat ourselves up over it? Or what do you guys think about that? Why do you think we do that?
I can tell you why I do it.
Yeah, let me hear it.
I had very critical parents growing up,
Okay.
very critical parents. And I always felt like I could never do anything right. And one of the things that I have learned through parenting and through counseling and through all of the things is our inner dialogue is so often our parents. That was our biggest influence as younger kids, and their voices they become our voices, and like just like our voices become our kids' voices. And not all of them, we still have our own influence and friends, and there's so much that
Everything else,
influence
yeah.
our brain and our inner dialogue. But I do know that for most of my life I had very, very critical parents. And so I feel like God is very critical of me, that I have expectations that I have to live up to. I have standards that I have to live up to, and I never could. And I was never enough.
So if you beat yourself up, do you feel like you're getting back in good with God? Would you say that, or?
No, I hide from God.
Oh, okay. All right.
No. I run away. And I don't so much anymore, just because I just think that God has
Because your relationship has
matured me in
changed.
our
Yeah,
relationship.
exactly.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that having a relationship with Jesus has completely changed my life compared to a religion with Jesus that I had for so many years. And I think that although that led to the relationship I have now, I think that again, it forced me to look at my behavior and the evidence of my life evidence. Because so many times it's like I have a thought, and I think we all do this. We have a thought and then we find the evidence to prove that thought. And so like when you feel you're stupid, well, then you're going to go to spell a word and you spell it wrong, and there's the evidence right there.
Yeah.
And then you just go down this spiral. And so if I have a thought that I'm not good enough and that God's disappointed in me, and then I find the evidence of that, and it might be like I have a conversation with my parents, and then they basically tell me I'm not doing enough, right? And then that's evidence, and then it's just, see, I'm a disappointment. My behavior is a disappointment. So I know that for me, my thoughts on disappointment or behavior or anything like that, most of it comes from my upbringing.
Okay. Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, your question is,
Why do you
why do we beat ourselves up?
Yeah.
This will probably sound goofy. We beat ourselves up because we're good.
Yeah.
We're actually good people.
Yeah.
we actually, we're good people and we have high standards, and we
Mhm.
hold ourselves to those high standards, and
Yeah.
when we don't meet those standards, we beat ourselves up.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So, and so I'll throw a scripture in for the people who love the scriptures, is like when God created the earth, created the heavens and the earth, he created people. At the end, he said, and it was good. And they were good. They weren't bad. They weren't
Mhm.
a disappointment. He got it. He created everything, and he sat back and goes, "Wow, it's good." They're good,
Mhm.
and that has never changed.
Mhm. Yeah, I like that.
Mhm.
So
That's a
I
good
think,
thought to have.
and so when we catch ourselves beating ourselves up, it's like, oh, I'm actually proving out the fact that I've got the nature of God in me.
Mhm.
That I was created just like Him,
Mhm.
and actually, then I can stop. But once I recognize, oh, that's coming because my good intentions, really, right?
Mhm.
And then I can, once I recognize that, it's like, oh, I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have, like, there's no punishment.
Yeah.
Punishments, Jesus didn't come here to punish us.
Mhm.
Like, I think I told you I have one friend who's counselor, and she did something, and she was angry with herself. And I said, well, it sounds like you think you need to punish yourself. And she goes, oh yeah. And definitely I
You
need to
do.
punish, definitely I need to punish myself. And so I was like, well, okay, well, so like, what's going to be punishment enough?
Mm.
Let's figure it out. So then you can get on with life,
Yeah, exactly.
figure it out. And so it just kind of showed me what a good heart she has.
Mhm.
And so goofy values that we would have, like crime and punishment in our values, and, that we, and then, and, being good cops and cops and criminals in the Christian world, I don't think that's just one more goofy way we view God.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of my thought off the top of my head. I might change my mind next week, but I really think it has to do that we're created in God's image and we're good.
Yeah, I like that because that's a nice, for me, I'm just thinking while you're talking, I was like, well, that's a nice challenge for me. Next time I decide to, if I'm disappointed in myself and want to beat myself up over it, what if I just say back to myself, I'm good,
Mhm.
I'm gonna try it. Because
You're
I've tried
definitely
the
you're
other
de
way.
you're definitely not condemned, right? There's no
Yeah,
condemnation for us
exactly. Yeah.
believers.
Yeah.
Like, there's zero condemnation. There's nothing we can do to get away from Christ's love.
Yeah.
Scriptures tell us that, and we've
Yeah.
tried it.
We've all
So,
tried.
and it's not because we're so good that he loves us.
Yeah.
He loves us, and he made us this way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, try it and let me know how it works.
Yeah, I will. Shay, were you gonna say something?
Well, I was just gonna say, Steve, I never thought of it that way, but it's so funny because, I have a lot of moms come to me and they go, I'm just worried I'm a bad mom. And what I always tell them is, if you're worried, then you're not. Because bad moms don't worry whether they're a bad mom. Like, if you're sitting there worried if God's disappointed in you, like you're good. It's because you're good. It's because you don't want to be a disappointment. It's
Yeah.
because you care so much, because you love so much. And so it just made me think of that as a mom, how many times, or as a wife, I think, am I being a good mom? Am I being a good wife? And it's like, most likely, yes, because I'm worried about that. And if I'm worried about that, then
Yeah.
it's because I'm good. It's because I don't know.
Yeah. No, I like that.
So
Yeah, and that's what Mike always used to say when we would have these things, when we'd say goofy stuff like that, and he would say, "Oh, that's Christ in you."
mhm.
Yeah.
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 But we kind of like distort it a little. When you beat yourself up, uh, it probably stems from Christ in you, but he doesn't ever like go beating the hell out of us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
He loves us and he wants the best for us.
Yeah.
And so we could always like tone that down if we wanted to, not have to, you know, because the tree of knowledge of good and evil was the problem. it was, that's always been the problem, that we look for good or we look for evil and we don't look for life. And so I think this is just another way of doing it. It's like, if I think I'm a disappointment to God, then I'm just looking at the evil side of the tree. If I think I'm like sinless, wonderful guy, well, I'm just looking at the good side of the tree, and what his really wants for us is to like leave that alone and just turn to life, which is what Shay's shirt says, right?
Yeah, Jesus is life.
And so that's really what our focus, and where we going through this process is, we can try good, we can try evil, but at some point we let go of those and turn to Christ, and find that that's really where life is,
Yeah.
Yeah, so as a closing statement / question, I think we've given the listeners a lot of great ideas and hopefully made them feel not alone.
Yeah.
And hopefully something between the three of us resonated with them, or, they were able to go, oh my gosh, I think that way too. What would be, and I know we've touched on most everything, but what would be like that one piece of advice if somebody is just sitting there thinking they're a disappointment or God is so disappointed in them? What would be the first step that you would tell them to take to start moving in love, to start stepping away from that disappointment?
I would say challenge the thought.
Hmm.
And just like he in the Bible says, keep your thoughts captive. I think challenging that thought and saying, like Steve was saying, hey, go to the source and ask him, am I a disappointment? Or, and if you still feel like that and you don't feel like you're hearing from God at all, just do what Steve was saying too, of what did God say? We're good. We are good. Yeah. And just say, I'm good, and move on and see how that feels.
Yeah. Steve? Do you have any?
Yeah, what would be the first step? I think just to acknowledge how you're feeling, and just say that, and then say whatever that thought is that's going with the feeling. So if I'm feeling maybe distant from God, and then I could say, oh, I'm feeling distant from God because I'm telling myself he's disappointed in me. And then, like Noah said, challenge that thought and look at the goofy, how distorted it is, and then come up with a thought that's true, a fact. So that would be kind of where I would go. But I think the first most important thought is like acknowledge how you're feeling and say what's the thought behind it. What am I telling myself?
Yeah.
And then especially if it's a thought about God, it's like, oh my gosh, admit I'm wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm wrong about that.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I've been wrong about God. I don't know how many. I'm 66, so at least a few thousand times, probably 100,000 times. And I'm really free from not from having to have God figured out. I think that's really His job to walk with me and guide me. And unlike and how God gets His way with us is to submit, right?
Yeah.
So he doesn't come in and say, Steve, you must speak Latin or you must speak God's language. He comes to me and he goes, oh, I'm going to speak like a Coloradoan,
Yeah.
with a goofy accent and mumbles, and then I can understand him.
Yeah.
But so that's how he doesn't have those expectations. He meets me where I'm at.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if I can say, oh, I feel like such a disappointment, I'm telling myself I'm a disappointment to you, and I know I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Meet him there. Meet him. He'll meet you wherever you're at.
Yeah, he will too.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Well,
thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, listeners.
Yeah, thanks to the listeners. I thought I'd do something fun for this one. If you want to put a comment in, the question I'm going to ask is, what was Michael Wells's favorite movie? Okay. If you get it right, I'll send you something. It'll be a surprise, whatever I send you, but I'll get you something. So Michael Wells's favorite movie. Let's see if
Did we,
anyone.
did we
knows.
mention that in this podcast? I mean,
Nope. I just
Oh,
want to know if anyone knows it. We'll
okay.
see.
Trivia.
Yeah, a little trivia.
Just a little trivia.
And I'll know if they actually listen to the whole podcast.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
and he'll send you one of those cool looking shirts like if you can mind read me and say what my favorite movie is.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe it's the same.
Yeah, maybe it's the same. Yeah, you can
But-
put in Steve's.
As always, subscribe to get the latest updates. Check out the website. Email noah@abidinglife.com. Any ideas for podcasts or any questions you might have. Click the like because it helps us out.
Yep.
That's about it.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for being here.
All right. Bye.
Thanks for listening in. If you enjoyed the message today, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any new releases. For more information about Abiding Life Ministries, visit abidinglife.com.